Hello, and welcome back to part 3 of editing our portfolio websites. Today, what we're going to focus on is designing the individual pages on our website that will show off the photos that we have taken. As you can see, the template I chose has a portfolio section here using the WIX portfolio system, but their system isn't that great. It has some issues and it doesn't give us as much control over the design of our pages as we want. So what you're going to do for your portfolios, I will show you right now. Firstly, we need to add a new page for one of our projects. Like we did before, you can go up to Page here and Manage Pages, or open the Site Pages in Menu tab on the side. We want to go to our Site menu, the main menu at the top here, that has Work and About, and we're going to add a new page. It's going to be a blank page, and you'll see it's made a new one, and now we can name it. I'm going to name mine based off one of the photos, so I think I'm going to showcase the Hong Kong drone photo. So I'm going to name this, 3 dots, rename, Hong Kong, from a drone. Something like that. Now, it automatically went to edit that web page, but if it didn't, or you want to change which page you're looking at and editing, this is how you do it up here, by coming up here and selecting the page. For example, I could go back to what's currently my home page, or back to one of my pages to work on. All right, so you'll see that just like the home page, the header up here, header, the orange section here, is the same, exactly the same. And the footer down here is also exactly the same. We don't really want to be editing these right now. We want to focus on editing the stuff that's specific to this page, which is going to be this purple section in the middle. Now, like before, I can make this section bigger or smaller if I want. I can also add additional sections before or after it if I want to do some more complex design, which I probably will. The way your web page works is that everything has to be inside a section. So this one section here, I'm going to go ahead and start adding elements to it to start designing my web page. There's a button to add elements here, but you can always click on the plus here on the upper left corner. Add elements. Like we mentioned before, the ones we're going to focus on primarily are text, images, maybe some buttons, but there's a lot of other options here which you can look through and maybe use some if you'd like. We're going to start by probably importing our image. I've already imported a few images here, but if I hadn't, the way I would do that is by going to upload images from computer, and then I could go and I could drag the files in or click here, find the photos and upload them. Like I said, I've already done that. So I'm going to back out and select the image. And I probably want it fairly big because this is the primary thing that I want to show on this web page. Maybe a little bit bigger, something like that. You'll see there's a lot of options down here. Every element will have a bar, which will show up either above or below it, depending on where it is on the page, with lots of different options. I could change out the image. I could edit the image to a certain degree. in their photo studio, change brightness, things, whatever. We don't want to do this because we edited them in Lightroom. There's some other options here if I wanted to crop it, add filters. We can look at the settings options. For example, it currently is set up so that when the image is clicked on, a link opens. This isn't actually what we want because we don't have anything for this to link to. We're already on the website for this image. I'm sorry, the web page for this image. So more than likely, we would want to set this to either nothing happening or magnifying. And I'll show you what magnifying means in a minute. We don't need to add an alt text here currently. Generally, for accessibility, adding an alt text is important to describe your image so that someone who can't see as well can understand what that image is, or someone who's blind can have that description read to them. A tooltip, which is what's down here, is what shows up when your mouse is over it. If a little box shows up with some information, that is a tooltip. In this case, I actually don't want a tooltip, so I'm going to delete that. So this was the settings section. We can also look at, say, the design section here, which could give us some frames if we maybe wanted frames, but I don't think we do. There's lots of different ones. We could decide to make it in a circle. We could also customize our own manually by choosing a style of frame and then making adjustments to the border, the borders, the widths, the everything, corners, all parts of it. In this case, I don't want a frame. But we can also look at, for example, animation and effects. So this has quite a few different options. And if you put your mouse over any of them, it'll show you how that works. An entrance animation is what will happen when the image first loads on your website. I actually kind of like the blur, or maybe the fade. But as you can see, there are a lot of options. And each of them will have options itself. So if I click on fade, I could customize the fade to be a certain length, to wait a certain amount of time after the image loads to show, whatever I'd like. I do kind of like the fade, so I think we'll stick with that. There's some other options here. A scroll animation becomes the default animation for that photo. We're going to talk about some of these other options later, but feel free to mess around with them and see what they do. So I'm going to close out of this page. And I think I have the start of this page set up. So I'm going to go to Publish to make this page public. And I already have it open, so I'm going to open it here. And refresh this page. But now, you'll see there's a new tab up here for Hong Kong from a drone. We'll set up this menu later. I just want to go to this web page for now. And you can see, here it is. If I click on it, does something a little funky, huh? With the zooming in here. Yeah, so that's not quite what we want. It's not working very well on this page. So we're going to go back and make the adjustments we need to make. Which I think is here in settings. Yes. So instead, I think maybe I will set it to open in a pop-up and see what that does. Let's publish it. Refresh the page. And now when I click on it, it opens nice and large in a pop-up. Yeah, I think that's okay. Great. So in this case, I can make this section bigger or add a new section at the bottom here and start designing the rest of my web page. Remember that for each photo you do for this project, you'll need to show the original unedited photo, the edited photo, and talk about a few different things. For example, for this project, I would say the project type, which is landscape, maybe put a date that I took it or a location that I took it, show or talk about briefly how I took it, what composition techniques I used, why I took it, and how I edited the photo. So I'm going to do that quickly using these elements here, the text, images, etc. I want you guys to experiment with making your own page, and then I'll talk about a couple other fun ways of trying to make new pages. So you'll see here that with text boxes, when you click on them once, you get the normal set of options here. But if you click into them again, or double click, it'll let you start editing the text in here and gives you your typical text options. We already talked about some of these, like vertical text. There are some effects that you could apply as well. Feel free to experiment with these. Your website has all of these, which are themed text styles. So if I go in here and add, for example, a new element of text, you'll see there's themed text options, which all generally match with all the other text that's already on your website. So I recommend using these a lot of the time. Okay, so I think this is a good start. You can see I have all the relevant information I need. I showcase the image nice and big, and then also show the changes, the adjustments that were made. Real quick, I'm going to make another page to showcase one other way of showing your images that I really like, that I think looks very nice on many websites. So I'm going to go and create a new page now for my next work. So at the top here, instead of creating just a single image, I'm going to go to the apps section and I'm going to add a special app. Feel free to look around the app market here and see what's available. Just remember that some of them you won't be able to use without paying extra. There we go. It's loading, and the one I'm looking for is a before and after slider. So I'm going to go to search here and put in before, after. And the one that I'm going to use is this one over here because it gives you a fair amount of use before you have to pay. There's some other good ones here, but most of them don't give you that much to work with until you've paid. So I'm going to click on Add to Site. It's going to pop up with their accept thing. In this case, this is all okay. So I'm going to agree and add it to the website. It will automatically add one to this web page. But I could always go and add them myself down in app widgets. Oh, it actually didn't add it, so that's okay. I will go to app widgets. This is the one that we just added, the slider, and now I can drag this slider into my web page. Obviously, there's nothing in it right now, but we're going to go through the settings real quick to show you just how cool this can be. So apparently it loaded some default images, which is fine. I'm going to want to go and edit a lot of this stuff. So your typical options are here. I could make this stretch, for example, all the way across the full width of the website if I wanted to. Or maybe you can see the blue box, maybe make it offset to like there. In this case, I don't think I want to do this. I think I'm fine with it as it is. But I'm going to go into settings here and start adjusting this slider. So this before and after slider lets you show two images, and it's really useful for when you have two images where they aren't cropped that much, they aren't moved very much in the image. So I'm going to want to change these images. I'm going to go to select images. And then I'm going to change out the images that are here. So this before image hasn't loaded yet. There we go. I'm going to change this, for example, to, let's see, what do we have? It's got to be in one of these folders. Is it this one? No. Maybe it's in this other one. Yeah. So I've already uploaded these. Again, you can upload the images yourself. But I'm going to do, for example, this before. That should change in a moment. There we go. And then I'm going to set the edited photo to be the after photo. There we go. So these don't perfectly align. This one here is a little more zoomed in than that one, but it's pretty close, so I think it'll work okay. So that's going to update. Very good. I can now take this and make it more appropriately sized. I can make the whole thing a little bit larger and center it to really showcase this photo. As you can see, it's too big for this section, so we're going to make this section bigger. There we go. And now if I hit publish, it'll make sure everything is up to date. And I can go here, refresh, it automatically put them into a More tab. Again, we'll design this later. But for now, that's okay. Let's go to More, and the name of my new web page, Muffy. It'll load. Not the best loading animation, so we might change that. But there's a slider where I can slide back and forth between the original and the edited photo. So you can see it doesn't perfectly line up. This effect is nicer when they line up well. But for now, I actually, yeah, I like this. I think it's good. And I could continue to edit this web page to add the rest of the information that I want to add. Hopefully, this has given you a good idea of where to start for designing your websites. There's a lot more options in here, and I want you to explore them to figure out what you can do. For example, there are some galleries in here, like slider galleries, that give you arrows to go back and forth between two different images, which you could do as well if your images line up well. Or say a carousel. I think there's a carousel in here somewhere, like here, which would show several images in a row, and you could go between them to show the steps of editing your photo, for example. But hopefully this has given you enough that you can start designing the web pages for your photos. That's the end of this tutorial. In the next tutorial, we're going to edit our home pages and fix the menu up here, as well as the other stuff that might be in our header.